Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm really honored to be here. I was really afraid when Walid was just bashing the Islamophobic thing, because I gladly told my daughter today I'm going to meet a bunch of Islamophobic friends. So, well, sometimes I'm proud to be Islamophobic. So I'm really honored to be here today, and my work and my ministry is through stories, and I would like to bring you a couple stories. One from my homeland, Egypt, and it's the story of my mother. Just briefly, my mother is born in a Muslim family and raised, you know, with all the Muslim rules that she learned from her mother. And my mother had, you know, she wasn't really your normal Muslim girl. She was very wild, very embarrassing, did whatever society and Islam said never to do. So one day, my mother decided to become a Christian, and that was a long story. But when my mother decided to become a Christian, my whole life shattered. Because of her decision, the government would decide to follow her. Our family would disown her. She would lose her business. She would be persecuted for the rest of her life. And I had to watch my mother stand in front of the Muslim imams as they threaten her and say, if you don't come back to Islam, you know what the penalty is going to be, and you have exactly 3 months to come back, or the penalty is death. Mind you, Egypt is not a country that has Sharia law. It doesn't follow Sharia law, you know, by the government or anything, but it is the street law that would apply right there. Shortly after, I found myself trying to save my mother from her decision of following Jesus that she's talking about all the time. And, you know, I thought that Jesus is going to kill her. So I wanted to save my mother, and I took on the Bible and started reading the Bible, and I ended up having an encounter with Jesus. I understand that you guys might not be all religious people, but this is my story, and I'm sticking to it. Shortly after, it took me a while to share my faith with my mother, but it was a pleasure for me to share with her also the freedom she received. Once her life changed, she tasted something that was different, and she wanted to share it with everybody, and she ended up escaping from Egypt. Thank God that there were some human rights organizations that got her out of Egypt just in time. And I watched her as she left me, sadly, in Egypt alone. Because the law is that I don't have a say-so, she doesn't have a say-so, but my father does. He has to sign for me or for her to leave Egypt. She was able to leave, and I stayed. And I stayed alone to fight for my life and to fight for my freedom of worship. Through many events and many things happened, I ended up marrying a Muslim, because by the Egyptian law, I could not change my religion legally on paper, and I could not choose to marry a Christian if I want to. Imagine my story as the story of millions of Muslim background believers right now in Egypt. And when I say millions, I mean millions. There are millions of them inside of Egypt now, and I have the proof. I ended up marrying a Muslim, and with a miracle, I was able to escape with my 2 children out of Egypt. And you can see my story. Keep the time, because I don't have anything to keep.
Go, girl.
Okay. Well, the second story would happen with the start and the beginning of my freedom. As I landed in America, first, before I landed in America, the first time that the airplane took off and I just waited, it was Egypt Air, all Egyptians around me, very scary. And as soon as the airplane took off, and I felt like we're just out of Egypt somehow, I took off my veil. And my son, who was 7 at the time, looked at me and he said, "Mom, you're going to go to hell." I said, "Son, we just left." I landed in the United States of America, LAX, and I felt like, finally, I can breathe. There's air, there's freedom, I can worship, I can live, I can raise those kids freely. I looked at my daughter and I thought, oh, you're never going to put that veil on your head. You're never going to be told what to do again. You are going to be raised free to make your own choices. For we live in the land of the free. I remember going to school to watch my son Josh and my daughter, and they were singing, there's a land that I seek where the children are free. I have that on video. It was time that we live. 1 year, and I was chased by Muslim terrorists across America. And I lived for the next 10 years of my life in America in hiding. Under a false name, my kids are not able to go to school. I don't have a job, I don't have a name, I don't have a social security, I don't have anything. I will not do anything illegal. How am I supposed to live? How am I supposed to protect my kids? There were times where my kids are afraid because they know, they had to be told the truth. If you were taken back to Egypt, and if I die, someone is coming to get you. And we've set this up. There are organizations, believe it or not, in this country that are aware of these things and help women like me. And for the next 10 years, I hated the Muslims. I hated the Muslim community. I didn't want to hear anything about Islam or Muslims or anything like that. I just wanted to raise my kids until God opened my eyes that there are people that need freedom, that need to have the choice and need to be told the truth, and no one tells them the truth. Most of them are just like me. They didn't know the truth, don't have a way out. When you look at me today, remember that there are half of the Muslim community around the world, not only in America, are women like me. They do what they're told because they look at their kids and say, if I say something, you're going to be taken away from me. I'm going to lose you. I'm not going to have the right to stand and defend you. I might die, and many of them do. And this is where the change happened in my life. And I was presented with the ministry I'm doing today. Today, because I believe that the truth of the freedom that I thought, see, there's an important point for us to understand. You have to understand freedom to be able to live freedom. The freedom I thought I had by just coming to America is the freedom of the law, of the Constitution of America, which I appreciate and I believe and I follow and I commend and all. But if it wasn't until I understood the freedom that Christ gave me that I was able to act on the freedom that we have in America. When I stood and I said, finally, I am not afraid to die. You have no hold on me. I am now viewed by millions of Muslim men and women around the world. 85% of the world watches Al Hayat channel and call us. Today, the Muslim world that so disrespects women, we are the minority of the minority of the minority in the world. Today, those men call my show and respectfully debate me and ask questions and gain freedom and say, we renounce this treatment of women, we renounce Islam, and we accept Jesus Christ. That's an addition for you. If you have an edge over the world. It is your freedom. It is the country that is so wonderful and beautiful and has equality, and I was so excited to be able to stand and become an American citizen here in California and say, I am really, truly free today. But with that, we need to understand our enemy. Our enemy is not the Muslims, it is the laws of Islam. You know, Islam looks at people as groups. People don't matter to Allah. They don't matter to Allah. He can erase them and bring many others. That's what Quran teaches. That's why Muslims don't understand human rights. Pamela, this is why. They don't understand that they are, as individual, valuable in God's eyes. They don't understand that you, Americans, respect people because they are people. They need to learn. We need to teach them, but we also need to not allow them to change our laws. This is the law of the land. You respect this. And this is what the Bible teaches, and that's why I stand by it. Thank you.